Welcome to another episode of Just Because Live. We are officially on season 2 of Just Because Live, and I'm very excited to have Carrie Lukins join us today. Carrie is a realtor in town, and we're going to hear about Carrie's story. So Carrie, thanks for being our first guest for season 2.
Thank you so much for having me, Christopher.
Absolutely. And so we've had some technical difficulties today, but like you and I were just saying too, is that technology is this both a good and evil at the moment, a necessary thing that we have to get through at this time. And so it's a definite adaptation. So Carrie, if you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then we're going to talk about your background a little bit.
Okay. Like Chris said, my name is Carrie Lukins. I own Sellstate Alliance Realty here in Colorado Springs. We also have an office in Pueblo. I own a pre-licensing school for anybody interested in getting their real estate license. It's called the Real Estate Academy of Colorado. And I also run a local nonprofit called the beCOS Network, COS for Colorado Springs, and also a play on the word cause.
Nice. Perfect. Ooh. Okay. So now then let's talk for a minute. So you're a local realtor here in town, got an office down in Pueblo, and we were talking beforehand about your journey on how you ended up here in Colorado Springs. And I've moved around a ton whenever I was younger. I found your story and actually the way that you describe it to be fascinating. So if you can tell the audience about that too.
Thanks so much. My dad was a custom builder and general contractor, so we moved around a lot due to just the different building booms. I was born in Arizona, and when I was 3.5, we moved to Alaska. We spent 10 years in Alaska, 7 of them in the interior in Fairbanks, and 3 of them in a little Eskimo village called Wainwright, way above the Arctic Circle. So Point Barrow is the northernmost town on the North American continent, and 98 miles southwest of Point Barrow is Wainwright. It's an Inupiat Eskimo village that we lived in for 3 years.
Wow. So and we'll pause there for just a second, because what was like for you as a preteen, as an adolescent, like what was like the school situation like for you out there, and how was that kind of growing up right then?
It was a village of 400 people, so everybody knew everybody, and it was K through 12.
Okay.
And we learned the Inupiat history and heritage and language, as well as regular schooling.
Wow, interesting. Oh my gosh, very cool. So I grew up in a small town where they actually combined, or I went to a school where they combined 2 very small towns together to come up with the school district, but we had separated K through 6 and then 7 through 12 in another school. But I thought too that my class size was small because we had a graduating class of like 88. I wonder up there too what a town like that.
You have a graduating class of like 10.
Wow, interesting. So then you're definitely not renting out a gymnasium or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
There's a community center that they host all of the events in.
Uh-huh.
And actually, my dad built the school that's still standing there now. They expanded it, and they hold a lot of the events in the gymnasium of the school.
Oh, that is really cool. Nice. And then so now then you were there until about 13. So then where do you end up going after that?
So the bottom fell out of the oil market in the late 80s, and unfortunately, my dad lost his business. So we packed up and moved to the East Coast to New Jersey to catch the tail end of a building boom in New Jersey.
Okay. And that
culture shock.
Yeah, I was going to say that is like 2 extremes, right?
Polar opposites.
Okay. So how was that for you then as a 13-year-old, going into middle school, junior high, getting ready, going from very, very small town to Jersey?
We moved in the middle of my 8th grade year, and I love change. I love finding the positive everywhere we go. And let me just throw out there, Chris, I have 10 siblings. I'm one of 11 children.
Okay.
And not all of my siblings are like that. Okay. So for me, it was fabulous. And I still have friendships 30 years later from every single place I've lived. So it was fabulous. And for some of my siblings, not so much.
Right. Okay. So so my wife comes from a family of 8. And then, so with that many kiddos, where do you fall in line?
I'm number 4.
Okay. Gotcha. So you're definitely then on the older half and have to kind of own that older sibling
Yes, we all had little ones that we took care of, and we call ourselves the bigs, middles, littles, and leftovers,
Okay.
because in 15 years, there were 9 of us,
Uh-huh.
and then there was a 5-year gap,
Oh, wow.
and then 2 more came along.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. So I'm guessing too, the holidays and things like that that's definitely pretty interesting.
we have all 11 been together 7 times in our entire lives.
Okay. Oh, wow. Wow. Interesting. Okay. So then you go through Jersey. Do you end up graduating high school in New Jersey?
No, the middle of my senior year, my parents moved out to Western Colorado to Grand Junction.
Okay.
My mom grew up in the Rifle area, and she had family over in Grand Junction, Fruita area, and she told my dad, Bill, we're putting down roots. It's time to go.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
And they're still over there in Grand Junction,
Okay.
and have been since 91.
Gotcha. And that town is definitely booming right now too.
It really is.
I've heard some stories on the radio recently too about like how much Grand Junction itself is really expanding.
It is.
Interesting.
So I finished my senior year there, and um, between my senior year and my freshman year of college, I started dating my husband.
Okay.
And I was given a basketball scholarship to CSU, and I blew my knee out the
Oh.
second to last game of my senior year.
Okay.
And unfortunately, my parents didn't have insurance at the time, and so I couldn't have the reconstructive surgery that I needed. And so instead of going to college, I got married.
Okay.
And in September, we'll celebrate 29 years.
Oh, that is great. Kudos to you
Thanks.
guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, we tell our kids, don't do what mom and dad did. We're an anomaly.
Right.
We don't always like each other, but we always love each other.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So then you go, now you're young and you got married, and I've done the exact same thing. And so where do you guys end up going from there? Where do you and your husband end up going?
We stay in Grand Junction for a little over a year, and he decides to join the military.
Okay.
And so he enlisted in the Army, and after he did all of his, basic training in AIT, which he did mostly in Texas, he joined the Army as a combat medic. We go to Germany, northern Germany, but north of Frankfurt,
Uh-huh.
and we spend 3 years there. We have our oldest child there. And then we came here to Fort Carson. And then my husband decided to change his MOS, and he became a Green Beret.
Oh.
So we went to North Carolina, and so he could go through the Q course and language school. And then we went back to Germany for another 6 years. And then in 2007, we came back here to Colorado Springs, and we've been here ever since.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah, we moved here in 05. So right around doubled up, pretty close to the same amount of time, and have seen a lot of growth and changes in the community as a whole. So your journey definitely is one you've traveled not only just within the continental United States, but the globe in that sense.
Yeah.
Growing up. Holy cow. So, and then how many children do you have now?
We have 3 children. My
Okay.
oldest daughter will be 26 this year, and she has a 5-year-old.
Oh, nice.
My one grandson, Killian, and we are raising him.
Okay.
So, and then I have a son who's 24, and he is an Apache pilot in the Army.
Cool.
And then my youngest daughter is 22, and her and my son-in-law, she's a Salesforce expert, and he works IT for a mortgage company, and they live here in town as well.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome.
And I have 3 grand dogs with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's just great. Yeah, both of our kids ended up leaving the house, and then now we've just got a dog, but I feel like at times the dog is as much work as it was having kids.
It
And
is.
so it's an interesting, I thought we were empty nesters, but we're really not truly empty nesters yet, because we have to get a sitter for our dog if we want to like go out of town and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk for a minute then too. So you came here in 07, and now, you mentioned in the beginning that you're a realtor. So how long have you been doing that?
I got into real estate in 2007 when we very first moved here. I didn't get licensed right away. I started working as an unlicensed assistant and a property manager for a couple of different local companies. So from 2007 to 2012, I grew a couple of different local property management companies from very small to very large.
Mhm.
And then I decided I was leaving too much on the table. And I went and got my real estate license and then switched my focus to mostly residential sales, a little bit of commercial, but 90% residential.
Okay.
I tried a couple different companies, and then in 2014, I found Sellstate Alliance,
Mhm.
and I interviewed them instead of them interviewing me,
Right.
decided to join them.
Yep.
And then in 2016, um, I had a small team and we were doing very well, but didn't know where we were going to take our team.
Right.
So I was at our, we are a franchise, a national franchise. And so I was at our franchise leadership meeting in Fort Myers, Florida, and listening to the keynote speaker. And I heard somebody behind me saying, why don't you go and buy your brokerage? I turned around to see who it was, and there was a wall there.
Oh, interesting.
So I went up to, I hadn't been drinking, and I generally don't hear voices.
Yeah.
So I went up to my room and told my husband that I was hearing voices and this is what they were saying.
Okay.
So I started doing research, and after in 2017 early, I told the previous owner of Sellstate Alliance that I was going to be leaving and starting my own brokerage. And he said, you know, I don't know that I necessarily want to be an owner anymore, so let's talk. So we spent 8 months negotiating, and January 1st, 2018, I became the new owner of Sellstate Alliance Realty.
Interesting. Okay. So I've got to ask you, because your story reminds me, at least a little bit, kind of the getting started piece of it. Reminds me, I had a lady on last year who she bought a restaurant from some people that she had worked for here in town. But she did it right when COVID started. So like the shutdown happened like literally the week after. And she's like, but I knew I needed to do this. I knew I needed to do this thing. So now you go out and you get your real estate license, run property management, but then go and get your real estate license in '07. And then everybody knows what happens in '08, kind of the bottom just falls out,
The
throughout the
bottom
country.
absolutely fell out of the market.
So how did you get through that? What was your mindset during that time, as you were kind of going through this?
The one thing, or one of the things I love about real estate, Chris, is whether it's helping tenants or helping owners, it's one aspect of the American dream that I can help people fulfill. The three pillars of the American dream are an education, a family, and home ownership.
Mhm.
I can educate you about home ownership. Your family's up to you. And so whether it's investing or a tenant placement, or helping people find that now home, that now home, or that forever home,
Right.
it's an honor and a privilege to help people fulfill the American dream.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's great.
So
And
yep, the bottom fell out of the market, and I did a lot of short sales and a lot of property management
yeah,
during that time.
but it's really that moment too, like where you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you like wear a bunch of different hats. It's not
Yep.
really where you get to niche down at that point. And then, it definitely shows truly like the gumption and, kind of what people have within them to be able to, kind of move forward and keep pushing forward towards that dream that they want to have. And even the lady that I talked to, she's same type of thing. She's like, for right now, if I have to, I will bus, I will host, I will do whatever I need to do to make sure that this place is still standing after it's all over. And
That's
so,
exactly how I view my business.
yeah.
About 2 years ago, I started partnering with another agent here. His name's Preston Smith.
Uh-huh.
And we joke, a year and a half ago, we became work married. We signed more papers with our attorneys for it to be partners than we did with our respective spouses.
I have a business partner and I completely agree with you on that. Absolutely. And we've known each other for a long time, but we've only been, work married for about 4.5 years. So no, I completely understand what you're saying there too.
It was just one of those perfect partnerships where
Yeah.
his business acumen and skill set, his strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa.
Right. And I think it's really got to be that thing too, to where you're not trying to compete in the same area. It's not, because you have to look at it as the bigger picture piece of
Yep,
what are we, it's not about individualism anymore. It's now about something much bigger. And a lot of ego and things like that needs to be set aside. And
absolutely.
yeah, our business coach, she's got a great saying too, where she talks about this thing called facts, not feelings. So anytime that we're having issues or anything like that, she's always like, let's walk through the facts. And I should not hear, I feel like, or I feel that, because that needs to be put over here. Just talk to me about the facts of what's going on. And
I love that.
it's a great way to really like just kind of be, for me, even to be put back into my space and just go, here we go. And
Yeah.
so it's super helpful.
Our
Um,
business coach, one of our biggest takeaways with our business coach is go forward sloppy.
yeah.
If you're going to make progress, take that next step, pick up the little pieces, because if you try and perfect anything, you'll never go forward.
That's interesting too that you say that, because when I had my first internship here, and it was with an attorney up in Woodland Park, he and he was a former lieutenant colonel in the military, and then once he was done, got his 20 years in, he went to DU, and he's now a magistrate at the courts. He one thing he told me was, he's like, we do not expect perfection, because perfection will take way too much time, and we'll never finish it. And
Yeah.
so we have to move forward. So it's just that interesting thing, because and we've all run through like the DISC and the Colby tests and things like that, where we know who our perfectionists are in the office. And even that, it's hard, because they're like, I don't want to give some things up, I don't want to just, but we really talk a lot about the Pareto principle of the 80-20 rule, and just say 80% will take
Yep.
80%, because then we can tweak that 20 nice and easy. But if we can get 80% out, we're doing really well.
Yeah.
That's super helpful. Interesting. Okay, so let's talk for a minute then too. Now, I think it is a different thing though to just kind of, we talk a lot about here about the employee mindset versus the owner mindset. In the E-Myth, they talk a lot about that. If you've ever read that, it's one where they definitely talk about kind of those buckets that people have. And so to transition from doing the job of being a realtor now to owning your own place, what are some of the qualities or things that you had within you that said, I want to actually own this, besides that voice in the back of your head, but to actually do that?
If you don't set goals for yourself, then you grow stagnant, and that's when you start to grow old. And I've always set goals for myself. So it was just kind of the next natural step for me, is to be a large scale business owner. As a realtor, we're 1099.
Right,
And so I owned my own business. So let's just take it and scale it to the next level.
right,
I've always done a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10 year business plan. And so it was just tweaking those plans and seeing how I wanted to change it,
right.
and how it was going to be beneficial for me. And then once I took a leadership role of an ownership, how it was going to benefit my agents, and any future agents that joined my brokerage.
Nice. And then one of the things, and you and I were talking about this offline, was, as an owner myself, I strive constantly to figure out what can I do to make Springs Law Group a great place to work, to make the environment for the team, for the staff, for the attorneys, for everybody here, a good place to work, where they'll actually go and tell their friends, hey, you actually should try to work here too, because it's just good. It's infectious. And so I saw in your email that you guys had won 2020 best workplaces from the Gazette. So can you talk about that a little bit, and what kind of things you guys have going on there to get an award like that?
I will, and thank you for that. We were nominated in 2018 and 2019. So the first year of my ownership was the first year that we were a finalist, and that was incredibly humbling.
Right.
But it was also a testimony to me that I was doing something right. I don't
Yeah.
know what it
Yeah.
was, but I
Yes.
was doing something right.
Right.
I didn't even know that one of the agents had nominated us, and then there's a pretty in-depth questionnaire, I guess, that people fill out. I never saw it
Okay.
any of the years.
Yeah.
Um, and So winning it in 2020 was eh, indescribable and just truly humbling.
Yeah.
We're a work family. It doesn't matter if you are a hobbyist at realtor or if you're a full-time realtor.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you want to sell one or two a year or if you want to sell 100 a year. We're family, and we have really, people talk about culture. We talk about culture, but we live the culture. We've really fostered and built a culture of we're colleagues, not
Yeah.
competitors,
Right.
because there's enough business to go around. Your why is different than my why is different than Joe's why is different than, Peggy's why.
Right.
And
Interesting.
and so just knowing that we're going to be there for each other, and it doesn't matter if we're there to help with showings, to help with closings, to help with contract questions, or do you need a ride to the grocery store? Is your
Right.
family facing a tragedy that we can help with?
Mhm.
Anything and everything, we truly are there for each other.
Nice. Oh, that's so good to hear. And it's good for you. It's good for me to hear it too now when you're saying, because I've heard this statement even in the legal community, because I feel like you turn a corner and there's another solo attorney firm kind of popping up here in and around the city. But I've talked to some other attorneys in town where they're like, there is enough to go out there for everyone. Everyone can do it and they can do well. So there's enough out there for everyone. So let's talk about that for a minute too, because right now, unlike the
Yeah.
bottom dropping out in '08, we actually have this kind of different flip almost going on now in the market. So how would you describe the market in the sense of what you've seen currently and what's kind of going on now? Did you lose me there? Yeah, cool.
We have a completely polar opposite
Yeah.
market now than we did in 2008 after the bottom fell out of the market. We actually have an opposite problem where we have no inventory, historic low interest rates, and we also have great big corporations coming in and buying up single family homes and renting them.
Oh,
Um, I that's not a bad thing for the for these great big corporations,
sure.
but it is a bad thing for the young college graduate or E4 E5 that's just moved here and is going to be here
Yeah.
to get into those starter level homes.
Right.
Yesterday in El Paso County, any type of residence, whether it's a condo, a townhome, a single family home, or an apartment, there were 661 homes, any type, every single price point
Really?
on the market.
Holy cow.
If you took it down to single family homes, it took it down to 523.
Wow.
And if you took it to $400,000 or less, it took it to 102.
Holy cow. So yeah, and I mean, and I, from personal experiences, my daughter who's 24 and recently married, they were, her and her husband were talking about trying to get a place, and they're just like, but the prices, the quantity and the prices. So even to get like a starter townhome or something like that, they're just like, the market's just crazy right now.
It's crazy. We are seeing escalation clauses where people are willing to pay, $2,500 more than the next competing offer up to X amount.
Wow.
We're seeing appraisal gaps. The largest appraisal gap I've seen thus far is $125,000 appraisal gap.
Wow.
So people are willing to pay being willing to be upside down
Yeah.
$125,000
Wow.
just to be able to own that home.
Wow. That just
This
doesn't
home
like,
was just over $1 million, but
yeah. Yeah. But yeah,
but in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, we're seeing $5,000 to $50,000 appraisal gaps.
yeah. So it becomes a bidding war basically, but you're trying to just outbid, but ultimately you could be putting yourself in a really big hole too. Wow.
You can.
Yeah.
That being said, the national average since 2008, the national average appreciation is 1% per month.
Oh, wow. That's really good to know too. Um,
And there's different pockets of the Colorado Springs, or actually the entire Pikes Peak area,
uh-huh.
that appreciate about 24% a year.
Wow, that's some good, that's some good, that's some pretty good investment, kind
Yeah.
of right there. So let me ask you this then too, and just for, if I'm, and we'll play hypothetical here. So if I'm somebody looking to sell my home right now, what are just a couple quick tips that you would give for somebody looking to sell at the moment that's getting ready to sell here? And then alternatively, if I'm looking to buy right now, what are a couple tips that you give to a buyer?
Okay, on either side, I'm going to recommend that you interview at least 3 realtors.
Okay.
You're gonna wanna make sure that you have the right fit, for you. We're all realtors, but we may not be a good fit for each other.
Right.
My why not be good enough for your why.
Yeah.
Um, on the sell side, don't be greedy. Unfortunately, we're seeing that a lot because right now people are getting 30, 40, 50, 80, $100,000 over list price.
Right.
And but we also are seeing a softening of the market the last week and a half.
Yeah.
Whereas we would put a house on the market, and before the end of the first day, we would have 20 showings and 4 offers.
Yeah.
By the time, by 3 days later, we had to go through literally, I've gone through 42 offers for one house.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I can only, my sellers can only sell that to one of those 42 people
Yeah.
looking.
Yeah.
So don't be greedy. And get your home ready to, you know, declutter, depersonalize,
Yeah.
clean it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're seeing sellers not being willing to do deferred maintenance items that really you should take care of because you're living there anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have a backup plan for if you are staying local, because you've got to find a replacement home somewhere.
Right. Right. Do you find
And
that
so
contingencies as are not happening as often right now because of the market?
incredibly rarely are contingencies happening.
Yeah.
And so as a seller, if you're staying local and have to sell your home to qualify to find a replacement home,
Right.
talk with your lender because there are different options. There's bridge loans, there's hard money loans, there's companies that will come in and pay cash for your home,
Right.
and let you live there. And there's a cost involved,
Sure.
but while you move, so that, they buy your replacement home and then pay your mortgage on it for up to 6 months while you're selling your existing home. So
Right.
then you don't have to be contingent.
Right.
And as a buyer, I I know it's I know it's a lot to ask, but don't get discouraged. The right home is going to come along, and listen to your professional realtor. Don't talk to mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, best friend, uncle, or your neighbor's dog.
Yep.
Talk to your professional. Ask the questions because you don't know. A lot of times you don't know. This is the
Yeah.
first time you're doing it. And you know, say, I don't know what I don't know. So what type of expectations should I have?
Yes.
And what's a realistic timeline?
It sounds like you're giving the exact speech that I give to clients all the time in the law office. Because we talk about fit, I use that exact same phrase, you don't know what you don't know. Can I ask too, though, then, if I'm a buyer and I haven't necessarily chosen my realtor yet, but I'm looking on, like one of the websites for homes for sale in one of the apps, how accurate or are those? Because I've heard stories that, like, the moment, if I'm even looking at one, the odds of that home even still actually being there live and active, generally for us as what I would call a layperson, as a regular person and not a realtor, they're generally already gone, or even like further down the road in negotiations than we may think. So what are your take on those sites?
So go to a professional website, go to realtor.com, or go to homes.com.
Okay.
Don't go to the Z word.
Yep.
They're now a brokerage, and we don't disparage other brokerages,
Right.
or agents.
Yep.
But they have historically had very inaccurate information.
Yeah.
So that would be my number one recommendation,
Yep.
is to, go homes.com or realtor.com, and they both have app versions.
Perfect.
and they update every 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good advice, because obviously it's that thing with the market being as hot as it is that you don't want to have one where it's not updating like that, because
Yep.
then you could be, kind of out of luck at that point in time too.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I've got my tips. Oh, I do want you to talk for a minute because I am a fan of local nonprofits. Can you talk about your nonprofit, please?
Absolutely. So the cause network was founded several years ago with the idea that everybody wants to give, but people want to know that they're making a difference, that their money is going to help, not pay somebody's salary.
Yeah.
So we hold quarterly networking events. Even during COVID, we would hold them online virtually, where we have anybody and everybody in town who wants to come. We network, and we have 3 publicly nominated local charities that have no national or state funding represented for specific initiatives. So you donate $100 or more, 50, I don't care. You make your donation, you get the tax benefit of it, and then we take this $20,000 to $30,000 that has been donated collectively, put it in a great big pot, and then we have 3 local charities every quarter that we divide that evenly up. So
Okay.
if you go down to your favorite charity and you give them $100, they're incredibly appreciative, and it goes in the general fund, and you don't know what it does.
Right.
Now we're able to write a check for $7,000 or $10,000 to a specific initiative. We've done the Fire Foundation of Colorado Springs for the ballistic vest initiative to outfit all the apparatuses with ballistic vests and helmets because our firefighters were being shot, up on. For the Senior Resource Council, specifically for their holiday ball. Generally, they hold a holiday dance and dinner for seniors at the city auditorium. We've done the Transitional Housing Initiative for Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center to help homeless veterans get off the streets. We've go baby go. We do a lot.
So not just a broad, hey, we found, a place like Mount Carmel, and we're not going to say, here's $5,000, do whatever you want. We actually you narrow it down even more to a specific initiative that Mount Carmel's doing, or an event that they're doing, and the funds go towards that specific thing, so you know what it's going towards.
We are.
That's great. Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely awesome.
One of the biggest differentiators about most of the agents at Sellstate Alliance Realty is the 4 of us are National Homes for Heroes affiliates. It's a foundation and program that was started after 9/11. So we honor 5 different hero groups: military of all type, retired, active duty, National Guard, reserves, military, law enforcement, firefighters and EMS, healthcare professionals, and teachers. So if anybody works in any of those industries, dental hygienist, bus driver, lunch lady,
Yeah.
When they use us to buy or sell a house, we give them 25% of our commission back as a thank you for being a hero.
Great. Oh, that's awesome.
Between the Cause Network and our local group of Homes for Heroes affiliates is called 719 Heroes.
Mhm.
The other charitable things that we do throughout the community, because we do a lot and our agents do a lot. In 3.5 years, we've given almost $1.7 million back to our local community.
Wow. Carrie, that's impressive.
That's the thing I'm most proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. That's leaving a true mark and a true legacy and a footprint right there. That's great.
Thanks.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. We're about 35 minutes in or so, and I want to respect your time. So, okay, so I told you too that I generally will close with 2 questions. So my first question for you is, what is your favorite place in Colorado?
My favorite place in Colorado would probably be Hanging Lake.
Okay. And can you tell me where is Hanging Lake?
Hanging Lake is just outside of Glenwood Springs.
Okay.
It's about a mile hike up to it, and it looks like it's hanging off the edge of a mountain. It is now on the World Historic Site, so you can't go swimming in the lake anymore. But when I was young, a teenager, we did.
Okay. Awesome. Dude, that's great. Because actually I'm going up tomorrow up to Glenwood Springs with my brother who's flying in from Ohio and his son.
Oh, good.
I'm
You go online because you have to have a reservation to
okay.
hike up there now.
Okay.
But it's stunning.
Cool. Very, very cool. Okay. And then question number 2 for you is, if you were not, I would say, the owner and realtor over at Sellstate Alliance Realty, what would your dream job be?
Well, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an attorney.
Oh my gosh. And do you know like what kind of attorney? Like a TV attorney or like what?
I had no idea. I knew I wanted to study law.
Okay.
Fortunately, as a realtor in the state of Colorado, we are authorized to practice limited law within the bounds of real estate,
Mhm.
and within the bounds of the Colorado approved contracts.
Right.
So I get to have a little bit of
Yeah. You get the contracts part of it. Oh, you could, yes, you are more than welcome to that stuff. My
it.
partner used to do real estate law and go through that every day. And he would just talk to me. He's like, my eyes just hurt. Like we're just reading this. And I'm just like, oh man, that does not sound like just like a good time in my world. I'm just like, whoa.
Well,
It's
if it makes it, I'll give you something to laugh about too. I was also going to be a rockette.
okay. Okay. Gotcha.
So
And then your knee blew out and no, I'm just it's
that was basketball, but yeah,
yeah.
no, I tap danced from
Oh,
a young age. And then I taught it after my knee blew out. I actually coached basketball and then taught tap as well. So
nice. So you have then, because of, and I was wondering that too, you've got with your, with the school that you've got that heart of a teacher inside of you too, I can tell.
my mom retired from teaching when COVID hit at 73 years old.
Okay. So it's there. Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Interesting. Oh, Carrie, this has been great. So can you tell everybody out there how people can reach you and your
I
team?
would love for them, sellstatealliance.com,
Okay.
719heroes.com, or they can call me 719-651-2199.
Okay. Well, Carrie Lukins, you have successfully survived season 2, episode 1 of Just Because Live. We appreciate you coming on and being our first guest. We're excited to share this out with the world. And thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
for
coming.
having me, Chris.
Absolutely. And